My name is Mason Beltran. I'm known as a Ghost Wrangler. Have taken strange photographs across the desert. Some I cannot find an answer or explanation. I have taped voices and recorded video that have left me stunned as to where they come from or who they are. Armed with my assistants, I go out to the distant sagebrush of the Mojave Desert, where men have entered and some never return, where dreams have been lost in the sands of days long gone, a desolate land where legend and folklore have dominated the landscape. My destiny to investigate these unknown things was set since a very young age. I'm on a quest to capture evidence not of this world that has taken me into towns and mines that have been left behind by our ancestors. This is Investigating the Unknown.
Red Rock Canyon State Park features scenic desert cliffs, buttes and spectacular rock formations. The park is located where the southernmost tip of the Sierra Nevada converge with the El Paso Range. Each tributary canyon is unique, with dramatic shapes and vivid colors. Historically, the area was once home to the Cawasyu Indians, who left petroglyphs in the El Paso Mountains and other evidence of their inhabitation. The spectacular gash situated at the western edge of the El Paso mountain range was on the Native American trade route for thousands of years. During the early 1870s, the colorful rock formations in the park served as landmarks for 20 mule team freight wagons that stopped for water. About 1850, it was used by the footsore survivors of the famous Death Valley Trek, including members of the Arcane and Bandit families along with some of the Illinois Jayhawkers. The park now protects significant paleontology sites and the remains of 1890s-era mining operations. High atop the El Paso Mountains, above Last Chance Canyon, exists today a monument to one man's determination and perseverance. William Henry Schmidt, better known as Burro Schmidt, spent 38 years accomplishing the task of hand-drilling a tunnel nearly a half-mile long. Over those 38 years, Burro Schmidt worked summers in the Kern River Valley on farms as a ranch hand. He would take his earnings in the fall, and with his burros, invest in flapjacks, coffee and beans, and supplies in Johannesburg, at Teagle's store. Schmidt would then head off to his tunnel, to work through the fall and winters. With a single jackhammer and dynamite, Schmidt accomplished his self-appointed task of burrowing through the mountain. Schmidt didn't stop to explore the veins of copper, gold, and quartz he encountered, he drove straight through. His intention early on was to provide easy transportation to the railroad for his ore, as no roads through to the other side's valley and railroad then existed. Schmidt had also mined in Last Chance Canyon with Walt Bickel on a claim nearby, according to Walt's friends. Burro Schmidt staked copper claims called the Copper Basin Claims, in the hills above Last Chance Canyon. He was 36 years old when he started his tunnel, and was 68 when he finished. In the first 3 months after finishing the tunnel, he took out 20 tons of ore, averaging $60 a ton in gold, silver, copper, iron, molybdenum and tungsten. Schmidt drilled his entire tunnel with a 4-pound single jackhammer. His drill steel was of whatever section and size he could find. He would drill only 2 holes 3 or 4 feet deep in the tunnel face, and use 40% dynamite with fuses and detonating caps. He could not afford kerosene, and purchased candles at 3 for 5 cents. He made one candle last an entire day. The digging and hauling of material was completely hand-done, filling and pushing the ore cart by hand. His track leveling method was a bowl of water on the ore cart track he put down, and today the tunnel is dead straight for 2,000 feet, with a sharp turn at the end, before the exit high above Cone Lake and Cantle. The view of Randsburg and the Wren Mountains, with San Jacinto on a clear day, is beautiful. At the entrance side of the tunnel, the view of the southern Sierras, Scotties, Black Mountain, and Walker Pass, with Bickle Camp at your feet, is a great view as well. Schmidt was born at Woonsocket, RI, January 30, 1871, about 17 miles from Providence. He had 3 sisters and 3 brothers that never reached the age of 30 years. All 6 died of consumption. He came to California in 1895, worked for 2 years with the Kern County Land Company, returned home, and then in 1900 returned to California for good. When Schmidt started his tunnel it was 1906, the year of the San Francisco fire, and also when Death Valley Scotty made his famous fast run east in a special train. Schmidt never married, afraid of passing the consumption on to his offspring. His only companionship were his 2 burros, which he used only for hauling his buckboard for supplies, water and fuel. He never used his burros in the mine. Burro Schmidt passed on just a few days short of his 82nd birthday in 1953. As he neared the end of his lifelong undertaking, Burro Schmidt offered his tunnel to the University of California for their studies of mineralogy, a noble gesture. News of his accomplishment was carried in many papers and magazines. Time magazine had an article on him, as did many other magazines. Schmidt was entered into Ripley's Believe It or Not as the human mole. Burro Schmidt lived in a small one-room cabin with newspaper and magazine clippings on the walls for insulation. On his small stove he figured he'd cook 25,000 meals, mostly of pancakes and beans. Schmidt was friends with Walt Bickle, who acted as a pallbearer as well at the funeral held at the tunnel entrance. The tunnel was entered into the list of historic sites, and became a popular area attraction. In his last years, Burro Schmidt gave his interest in the tunnel to Mike Lee, who after a few years passed on, and Tony Seeger purchased the claims from the county seat in Bakersfield. How the county of Kern sold an unpatented mining claim is uncertain, but Tony soon was living next to Burro Schmidt's cabin, and fixed up Lee's cabin with full amenities. Water was provided with a well and pump, power was generator-driven. Tony moved into the cabin in the early 60s, while President Kennedy was in office. She provided the dusty traveler with a wealth of history on the tunnel, and was happy to have a flashlight available for those who had forgotten one. Tony passed away shortly after her 90th birthday in February of 2004. Her nephew David had helped her get around in her last few years, and had watched over her. Dave took over oversight of the tunnel, and was also a mining claimant. Unfortunately, the BLM found a controversial, and some say unjust, reason to tell Dave to leave the claim as a caretaker. After Dave left in June of 2004, Burro Schmidt's and the Lee Seeger cabins were ransacked with their contents either stolen or demolished. Today the remnants of the 2 cabins are open to vandals, with no one present to provide oversight. Cabins that had been placed on the property during Tony's time were bulldozed by the BLM, because they were not historical, existed on public land, and were purportedly unsafe. All this vandalism occurred because no adequate caretaker was present, and is truly a loss for all of us. The BLM was fully aware of what would occur when Dave was forced to leave, but had no provision to canvass for an alternate caretaker, and knew a few volunteers. The tunnel survives for now. Hopefully the BLM will not cover the entrances if someone bumps their head in the dark. During the ghost hunt, we encountered many relics that could be seen scattered all over the wall, creating a collage of times past. We searched all over the rooms and structures in search of paranormal activity. We had an arsenal of equipment running throughout the night. Not only do we search for paranormal activity but also search for lost treasures. Jimmy searched the area for anything that might give us clues to the earlier times. The area was large, quiet and eerily desolate. Old tools and junk was scattered all over the floor. With the lights off in complete darkness we searched. Meanwhile, while we searched, We kept a thought in our mind, and that was that the area was a hot spot for UFO activity. With Edwards Air Force Base and the test range in the distance, the Haystack Bluff or Butte near the launch area reportedly holds underground levels and surface pylons, where pulse beam and stealth research is being carried out. Haystack Butte is reportedly the central hub of massive underground activity, with underground connections to other facilities. Witnesses who have described alien activity there have died under mysterious circumstances. Also reports of a 50-mile underground tube shuttle linking Edwards AFB with the Tehachapi facility, and an ongoing excavation below the base down past 9,000 feet, with underground facilities being monitored by hovering remote-controlled basketball-sized metallic spheres capable of electromagnetically monitoring the encephalographic waves of base workers and visitors, and thus anticipate their intents. In our next episode we will bring you the hunt and an unexpected paranormal experience, that latter we found out the meaning had validity. Due to being in the place that God forgot. Planning the hunt is very important to us. Knowing the ruffle of the sands and the brush tells us very much. Being in the desert we can determine what kind of animal or man could sneak up to us in the darkness. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment and like.